They know how many votes they need. What we need to do is expand the playing field, both by voter turnout and by registering people. The registration deadlines are approaching. We have to register people who are disaffected, who don't want this transformation to occur, and we have to register them in record numbers. When we get down and we actually cast ballots, they are shocked by the number of votes that come in for Donald Trump. And it's way more than they planned. And it makes it much harder for them to steal it. We just have to make it harder for them to steal it. A lot of things have been done at the state level to try to stop that. But like I said, somebody's determined to steal an election and sees no consequences and prosecutes the people who actually accuse them of cheating, as has happened. Don't expect them not to make every effort to cheat. Our job is just to beat them. And then after we beat them, those who cheated, make certain that they face a legal consequence for cheating that makes it so the next generation of Democrat activists play fair. Because the truth, folks, this is just God's honest truth. We win on the issues. People don't agree with this gender-affirming care garbage. People know it's wrong. The state of California, when they have to pass a law that says you can't tell parents, that's what they did. Kamala's home state.
Yeah.
They said, mine, where I came from, they passed a law that says you can't, schools are prohibited from telling parents about that their kids are being groomed to change sexes. Prohibited under law in California. The exact opposite of what anybody would think is rational. You say, oh, reasonable position. Well, at least tell the parents so they can have a say so. Nope. They prohibit it. They fire the school teacher, the school nurse who says this is crazy. That person gets fired and can be thrown in jail. So, folks, this is for keepsies. This isn't just a battle over who's going to get the next station on the subway system. This is for keepsies. This is for your children's ability to exist in this world and for you to be able to be their parent or grandparent.
Absolutely. I am just so glad that you are bringing that out, because one of the things you mentioned, and it's so true, is what are we going to do? Are we going to stand up, and are we going to allow this to continue? And you were talking about getting out and getting people registered to vote, which is important. What I'm thinking too is that anybody should be using whatever their platform is or their social media presence to maybe point out some of these policies that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are behind, or some of the record that they had. We know there's a lot of spin out there, but don't you think that would be a good strategy as well?
Absolutely. My cartoonist does cartoons for a lot of other people, but a guy named Tony Bronco, he's been doing cartoons for me he has some problems. He did work on he did help develop satellites, or at least balloon systems for China. Unknown whether the balloon that flew across the country and Joe Biden refused to shoot down until it was over the ocean, you couldn't recover it. Unknown if that was one of the balloons he developed. But as an astronaut and a guy with a lot of expertise, he made a lot of money from China, which is never really good if you're going to have a U.S. president who's worked for the Communist Chinese Party. He has a few disabilities, but he would have delivered Arizona. Chances are he would have delivered Arizona. So you get down to it, she picked somebody in a state that really wasn't in play because he's the guy who's picked to carry on her legacy. And it's a legacy that has nothing to do with the idea that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that they're individual rights. It has nothing to do with those concepts. It has everything to do with it's no longer a government at the consent of the governed. It's a government that tells you what you will accept. And you'll like it. Because after all, if they actually believed in a government consent of the governed, they couldn't with a straight face wipe the votes of 14.5 million people off the map and pretend they never occurred and say, oh yeah, we're providing you somebody as a nominee who nobody's voted for. They eliminate all claim to saving democracy when they destroy the democratic presidential election process in so many states and say, that doesn't matter. The fact that Democrats, their voters, are willing to accept that tells you that they need to change the name of their party to the authoritarian, because there's not a Democrat principle left within that structure.
Wow. That is so correct. I like that. Change the name of the party to the authoritarians because that is absolutely true. They're just handing it to people. There is no questioning. There is no you get to say anything or even have any input. Somehow she came up with 3,900 delegates by making a couple phone calls, which goes back to your statement that this was part of the plan already, came up with the call-in voter delegates, which I
Well,
don't
they,
even
they
know if
can make
that's
up whatever
legal.
they can make up whatever rules they want as their party nomination.
Yeah.
But remember, Nancy Pelosi had people voting remotely, effectively giving Nancy Pelosi half the Democrats' votes. She voted however those representatives wanted. In COVID, until the Republicans took over, half the Democrats in Washington never came to D.C. to vote because Nancy Pelosi had their vote. Most people don't realize that, but that's actually what happened. So they aren't really big on having to all come and vote. The stunning part to me, and I have to say, I thought it'd be harder for them to do this because supposedly some of those people actually voted for Joe Biden. Some of those delegates were actually people who supported Joe Biden,
Yeah.
who thought at some level that Joe Biden was doing a job that needed to be defended. And for them to automatically shift on a dime and say, oh, yeah, we're going to throw Joe Biden over the bridge and we're going to pick up Kamala Harris. It's really the fact that there was absolutely zero loyalty to Joe Biden amongst the delegates, the elite in the Democrat Party who are the deciders. That surprised me. I have to say it. It just makes you wonder how many of the Biden delegates were actually Obama delegates, just leftover delegates who were going to do what they were told to do, because essentially that's what they did. They all got on and said, we're told to leap, and they said, how high? I can't imagine if you were trying to replace Donald Trump and you're getting Republican delegates together, it being anything but a free-for-all, messy process because everybody has their own idea who should get it, and we don't have to do what you say. We've been entrusted with a duty here. We're going to do the best we can on it. It's just a difference in thinking. It's actually why it's much harder to organize Republicans than it is Democrats, because individuals think for themselves and collectivists think in a Borg. They're a Democrat Borg, but they're not Democrats because Democrats can't be Borgs. They are authoritarians who think they're going to benefit from authoritarian rule. What's ironic, of course, is every time that occurs, after they kill the czar in Russia, they then kill all the people who weren't authoritarian enough in consolidating their power. So the dummies who say, oh, this is okay, they're going to find themselves on they're going to find themselves on every bit as much of a hard side of the stick as people like you and me. Ultimately, we can do something about it. You don't want to be the person who on January 20th at noon is watching Kamala Harris put her hand on whatever she's going to put her hand on and raising her other hand in the air and becoming president of the United States and say, I didn't do anything to stop this. You don't want to be that person. Now's the time. Many people out there put their lives on the line and wearing military uniform or as a police officer upholding the laws, who go to PTA meetings to try to make certain that their kids have a good education, who invest in America in so many different ways. This is the time when this next 85 days, the investment in America is about registering voters and getting those people to come to the polls and getting them an absentee ballot application, helping them make sure that they're sending them in. That's what the next 85 days are. But we have a volunteer army, and we have to become that volunteer army to defend this country from what's coming.